I'm so fascinated by your career path, given you're so young, but you've already done so much. You had appearances in Impact and AEW before you popped up on WWE and signed there. Like, is it tough sometimes to come to grips with the fact that you're so young doing all this? Because I know this was a dream of yours from the time you were a child.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. Sometimes I feel like I have to kind of pull myself out of it and like kind of realize what I'm doing because I feel like it all moves so fast. And I'm a very stressed person because I want everything to be like I'm a perfectionist and I want everything to be perfect.
Yeah.
So sometimes I gotta step back and be like, this is really cool. Like I'm doing everything I dreamed of when I was 8 years old. Like I literally like played this out in my head and it's unfolding in front of me. So I'm very lucky and very grateful, but it is crazy sometimes to step back and be like, this is actually happening.
And you mentioned like when you were 8 years old, and you've mentioned AJ Lee in promos in the past before. When you were about that age, there was a woman as an integral main figure of WWE Raw every single week. I mean, when you saw that, was that like a motivating point? What was it that made you go, I'm gonna be a wrestler. There's no way it's gonna be anything else.
Yeah, so when I first started watching, I was like 8 years old. I was in like 2009-ish. I kind of look at Undertaker and Shawn Michaels WrestleMania 25 match as like the match that kind of got me into wrestling. And at that time, like I would go back and watch old women's matches just because I was so obsessed with it. I would just be on my parents' computer looking up old stuff. But at that time, the women didn't get a lot of time. And even as like a young kid, I noticed that. And I noticed that there were a lot of differences in the women versus how the men were presented. And even just as a young kid, I knew I wanted to be here, but I wanted to be a pro wrestler and I wanted to have matches like the guys got to have. And I wanted to do all the things that they got to do. I didn't want to do, all these brown penny matches and stuff that I was seeing as a kid. And even then, I knew like I wanted to be so much more than that. So then seeing somebody like AJ Lee come in and even Paige and women like that, everyone who came after her. But I think she was kind of, the first one that I saw as a kid. She had all this merch, like she was like kind of the first woman to have all this merch and none of the other women really kind of got to have that at the time and I feel like she was kind of the first person to kind of start making everybody see like women can do all this exact same stuff. They can make the same sales in merch, they can do all this stuff. So to see her do that, she just instantly became my favorite. Like I feel like she was so relatable and I saw so much of myself in her. Like she was a fan as well and I just feel like we had a lot of similarities, so to see her do all this kind of made me be like, oh, I can do all this too. And like I remember there was an interview I saw of her where she, maybe it was Slammy's even, that she said that she hopes what she leaves is for the women who come after her, and that kind of always stuck in my head because I feel like now I'm kind of trying to be in that position myself and hopefully a few years from now there's someone who was me as a kid watching AJ who, I kind of helped as well. So I feel like that's definitely a goal of mine to kind of be the AJ for other girls as she was to me.